Hi everyone! Welcome back to This Book Belongs to Pam, and in this video we are going to be talking about my September TBR, or better known as my Magical Readathon TBR. So September is here, which means Magical Readathon Autumn Equinox is here. And normally this would be in August, but I think G moved it around. That was actually perfect for me because August is Akdang Pinoy Readathon month, which is Filipino Literature Readathon. So I was able to focus on my Akdang Pinoy reads for that month, which is so good. So let's look at the classes that I need to take. So for Story Weaver, I have to take 3 classes. And for Autumn Equinox, you have to reach a certain grade level for each of those classes. So inscription, I have to reach the O level, which I believe is outstanding. And that just means I need to read 1 book for that. For psionics and divination, I have to reach the Q level, which is it qualified? So I have to read 2 books for that. And then for the lower class, I have to reach distinguished, which is 3 books. So all in all, for Story Weaver, I need to read 6 books in total. That's a lot. But anyway, let's talk about the prompts. So the first one, inscription at the O level. Title has all the letters of your first name. So I have 2 books for this prompt. One of them is on Kindle Unlimited, and one of them I have a physical copy of. And I haven't really decided which one I want to read. So if you have a preference for the 2, let me know in the comments down below. But the first book is Forest of Dreams and Whispers by Catherine MacDonald. So I think I found out about this book through Carrie Can Read. And this has all of my letters. P-A-M. I have been curious about this. It's a fantasy book and I think it is a retelling. So you'll actually see this book in a later prompt. I might read it for that as well. But the other option is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I know that this is sci-fi. I have not read anything from Andy Weir. I've only watched The Martian. I think this got pretty mixed reviews, but I'm willing to give it a shot. It's quite thick, so I am quite concerned about that. That is for the first prompt. The next prompt is for psionics and divination, and for the O level, I have to read my favorite author's debut book. And I have chosen Frederick Backman for this prompt, and I believe his debut book is A Man Called Uva. But I do know that it's a sad book. So there's that. But I'm definitely itching to read more Frederick Backman. I have not continued the Buried Down trilogy yet because I am not ready for it. But A Man Called Uva might get me back into the mood for his style of writing, which is humorous and lighthearted, but also very deep and kind of very sad. Now, for the Q level, I have to read a book whose same letter appears in the title 4 or more times. This is actually a difficult prompt if you want to read something that's not fantasy. Usually fantasy books will have like a title that has alliteration. So the one that I pick is Chest of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This will only be my second Brandon Sanderson. The first one that I read was Mistborn, which I absolutely love. I still need to continue that series. But I thought this would be like a good book to get back into his writing. And I also know that this has a more cozy vibe to it. So there's like a lot of E's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 E's. So that is why I picked this one. Now the next prompt is for lore, and I have to read 3 books for this. So the first one, at the O level, I need to read a vampire book. Now this actually worked perfectly for me because one of the books in my 12 Friends, 12 Recs, which I am quite behind on, I think I'm behind by 2 books at this point, is a vampire book. So I am able to use that. So the book that I'm going to be picking for this prompt is Silver Under Nightfall by Rin Chupeco. So you can see I have a lot of like thick ass books, which is scaring me a little bit, but we can be ambitious. We can try. So this is a vampire book, if I'm not mistaken. I think there's polyamory on it. I'm not quite sure. But I have been wanting to read this. It's by a Filipino author, so it makes sense for me to put it in this readathon. So yeah, Silver Under Nightfall by Rin Chupeco. For the Q level, I need to read a translated book. So the one I have here is quite short, which is perfect, and it's not fantasy, which is I need non-fantasies right now. So I'm gonna be reading My Husband by Maud Ventura. This book has been making the rounds on Instagram and BookTube, and I got it when I first heard about it. And since then, I know that Jan has given this 5 stars, which makes me even more interested. I know that this is just about a is it like an obsessive manipulative woman who like female rage kind of thing, and she's also older, she's 40, which I don't read a lot, so that would be interesting. And it's also thin, so perfect. This is translated from French, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's the winner of France's first Nobel Prize. So yeah, it's from French, translated to English, so very curious about this one. Whew. Oh my gosh, I am sweating. I hope that you guys don't mind that I turned on the fan because I was boiling. The last book for the Story Weaver calling is a retelling. So I do have a couple of options here. I'm not quite sure yet which one I'll read. But the first option is the same one as the first book that I showed you, which is Forest of Dreams and Whispers by Catherine MacDonald. And the next two options that I have are book box books. So the first one is After the Forest by Kel Woods. So technically this isn't a retelling, but it is based or using characters from Hansel and Gretel. So you have Greta and Hans in this one, like the people who go into the gingerbread house. It kind of follows them 20 years after the witch in the gingerbread house. So it's not a retelling per se, but it's using characters from an existing story. So I don't know if this actually counts, but I am keeping my options open. This is from an Illumicrate box that I got. It's so cute. Like, I love how fairy tale-esque it looks, and it seems thick. Look at that, so beautiful. It's so thick, so I am quite scared, but the font size is like, it's a small book as well. So this is like, I guess, the usual size of a book. And so she's a shorter, smaller book, so it is not as long as it seems. But I am still scared, but this is an option. And then another one is The Forest Grimm by Catherine Purdy. So this one is a Fairy Loot edition. So if you can guess what the retelling is. So it's technically not just Little Red Riding Hood. I believe this goes through like the different Grimm fairy tales and uses the more original, darker tone of those fairy tales. And I think the main character is gonna be the Little Red Riding Hood. She just doesn't look so little in this one. So yeah, it is somewhat a retelling or a reimagining of an existing story. So I would count this one. So I think I'm still gonna be on the lookout for a different book for this, possibly a manga. Because I know that a lot of mangas have like retelling from fairy tales and other stories, because this stack is getting ridiculous. This is only for one calling. I mean, granted that I have options in there, but this is just for one calling, and it's kind of a lot. I feel like I'm gonna set myself up for failure. But yeah, I will still be on a lookout for like a different book for that prompt. So yeah, this is for Story Weaver, and I am actually excited for a lot of these books. Now let's move on to the second calling, which is the Eldia Excavationist. Thankfully for Eldia Excavationist, I only need to read for 2 subjects. So the first one is Animal Studies, but I do need to reach the 3rd level, which is Distinguished. That's 3 books. And then the next one is Restoration, which I need to reach the 2nd level, which is 2 books. For Animal Studies, the first prompt is to read a book with a phoenix on the cover. This is the only book that came to mind that has been released recently. It's The Phoenix Keeper by S.A. MacLean. Another fantasy. So that's kind of concerning. I am still gonna be looking for options because I have way too much fantasy, but that is what I have tentatively right now on my TBR. It's in my Libby library, so I can borrow that. Just waiting for the hold to come in. The next one, the next level, I have to read a standalone, which is perfect because I am looking for a way to fit a buddy read that I have with Pam from Pam Shenanigans. So we are going to be reading Babel by R.F. Kuang together. Another thick-ass book. I have actually started it. As you can see, I have tabs in it. I started it 2 years ago now, I think, and I'm currently on chapter 4. I actually still do remember everything that happened. I might go through my tabs and just remind myself why I tabbed them. I have completely forgotten my legend for this, which is probably why I should, write those down. So yeah, we're gonna be buddy reading this. We have a Discord channel, like a joint one, where we just do the most random things. But we do have a channel for the Babel read along or buddy read. So if you want to join us, join the conversation. I will link that down below. Also, the reason why I DNF'd it, like I soft DNF'd it at the time, wasn't because I didn't like it. It was because I'm reading this alongside The Secret History, which was stupid on my part, but it was like for book clubs and stuff. So that was a lot, and I was further along The Secret History. That's why I finished that first, but I was enjoying this a lot. So yeah, Babel is gonna be read this September. If anything else, this is my #1 goal. My gosh, this stack is scaring me. The next prompt is a book that has had a cover change, and thankfully I picked a non-fantasy for this one. I want to read Murder Road by Simone St. James. So this is a horror thriller, not quite sure. This is the Evernight edition, so it has had a cover change because this is the original cover for reference. So this is a cover change, so it fits perfectly. I am very new to the horror, like mystery thriller. I've been reading quite a bit, but I'm still nowhere near like as other people. So a lot of people said that this was disappointing, but I'm banking on the fact that I'm very new to the genre. I might be easier to please than most. So hopefully I like it because this is such a cute edition. But yeah, I just wanted to break up all of the fantasy with something else. So yeah, Murder Road by Simone St. James. So the next one is Restoration. For the first level, I have to read a book that has the night sky or the night on the cover, and for this I'm going to be reading No Exit by Taylor Adams. So this is on KU as well, and the reason why I'm reading this is because it's also a book club pick for my workplace's book club. Worked out perfectly well, and it's also a thriller, which again, I want to break up all of this fantasy with something else, so that's perfect. And I think it's quite short. The book, like the physical book, looks thin or like it's not as thick as some of this book, so that works out perfectly for me. And then the last book for my calling, I need to read the book with a poisonous plant on the cover. Now this was tricky because I am not very familiar with plants in general and what they look like. So I did a Google search of what are poisonous plants, flowers, and one of them was foxglove. Now I have a book that is called The Foxglove King by Hannah Witten. So this is also a Fairyloot edition that I have been wanting to read for the longest time. I've been looking for an excuse to read it. It's kind of thick as well. It's also fantasy. But it says foxglove, right? But the prompt says poisonous plant on the cover. So it has to be like one of those flowers in here, right? I'm not familiar with, like, I did the Google search. Some flowers, like for example, like this one looks like foxgloves, like that one, if like usually you would see them upside down. So that one looked like foxgloves. This one at the top looked like that, but I'm not sure. But I'm just gonna assume that it is. I mean, it also has foxglove on the title, so I think I can use this for that prompt, right? I'm gonna use it, okay? Like, it's not like I'm doing myself any favors here. It's so thick, so. So these are all the books that I need to read for my 2 callings, but with Magical Readathon, there are other things happening. There are things called side quests. Now, one of the side quests is called the Alchemy side quest, and I wasn't able to finish that when it first came out. And technically there's like a deadline to it, but like, who really cares? Not me. So I am still chipping away at that. The next thing that I have to do for that side quest is reread a favorite book, and I want to reread An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. Now, if you watch my Full Moon Readathon vlog, which I will link down below, this was also in my TBR for that, but I didn't get to it. This was the last book in my TBR for that, and I didn't finish it. So I want to bring it over here and actually, reread it. I haven't read from this edition, and it's so pretty. It's also the Fairyloot edition. Look at that. It's so pretty. Oops. See? So nice. So I want to reread this, and it would work for the Alchemy side quest prompt. So now that is all of my Magical Readathon books. TBR complete along with the digital ones that I'm going to be reading. It's a big sap. It's a... Okay, I don't know what I was thinking, but I really want to get back into reading, and Magical Readathon always brings out the competitive, like, reader in me, and I, like, really go through books a lot. I will leave a link to a playlist of my Magical Readathon vlogs from the spring equinox. I think that was in April. So if you want to watch, like, all of the stuff that I get up to during Magical Readathon, that's a good place to start. Now, with this done, you think I'm done? You think this is my September TBR? Of course not. Of course not. So I have to read a couple of books for video ideas as well. I'm not going to reveal those now, but know that there are other books that I also need to read. But one book that I can share with you that I'm going to be reading is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. Now I tried to make this fit with any of the prompts. Maybe I will still try, because the reason why I'm reading this is it is going to be part of this new thing that I'm going to be doing on my channel, which is to do reading sprints every Wednesday where we just read series. So it's kind of like a series read-along buddy read, where every Wednesday I will have a set number of chapters of a series that I want to read from start to finish. So I have the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy. So I have broken each book, this and the second and third book, I've broken them into 3 parts each, and I will be reading one part, which is roughly around 150 pages, every Wednesday through reading sprints. Everyone is welcome to join. Read Once Upon a Broken Heart with me, or you could just do your own thing, read whatever you want to read, be productive or anything like that. But this is what I'll be reading. There's not going to be any spoilers. I'm not going to do live shows or anything like that. This is just me finding ways to read the books, the series that I have. And the first one I thought that would be like a good entry level one is Once Upon a Broken Heart. So there's that. And then I am also gonna be doing a Storygraph read along. So if you look in the link in the description box, there will be a read along buddy read thing with Storygraph where I'm gonna put in my spoilery comments, and you can check that out if you want to chat about the book. But overall, it's just gonna be chill. Even if no one shows up, I am gonna be online. I'm gonna read this. That's gonna be my excuse for finally reading the series that I said I would read. And I want to just do this every Wednesday, like every single Wednesday. So I would still have my Sunday reading sprints with Pam from Pam Shenanigans, but every Wednesday, if you want to read with me, hop on to my, I don't have a name for this yet, but right now it's the Once Upon a Broken Heart read-along sprints. And I hope to see you there. And, you know, let's all finish our series together, regardless if you're reading the same book as me or not. So, yeah. So that is my September TBR. Done and dusted. I feel like I'm gonna be the one dusted by the end of September because of how crazy this TBR is. But that's fine. That's okay. It's all part of the reading journey of being on BookTube, and I am having fun reading. And I hope that you do too. If you are gonna be joining Magical Readathon, leave a link to your TBR, whether that's on Instagram or YouTube. I love Magical Readathon, so I love consuming content on it, and I feel like I'm not alone if I am seeing other people do the same crazy things that I am doing. But yeah, this is my TBR, and I hope that I get to read all of them. Thank you so much for hanging around with me and for listening to me pick out the books for Magical Readathon. If you're excited for any of the books that I'm reading, let me know in the comments down below. But if you don't have anything else to comment, maybe just leave a scroll emoji in the comments, just so I know that you got to the very end. So yeah, that is it for me. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.